One of the best things about sports is that sometimes a year is all it takes to change a narrative in the opposite direction. And Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat are among those who can validate that, despite not caring about narratives at all. Just a little over a year ago, Miami had finished a season in which it missed the playoffs and was looking to make some major moves in its roster. Butler, for his part, was about to become a free agent and had the chance to change teams for the fourth time in 4 seasons with the hope of landing in a place where he could be himself and compete for a championship. But as it turned out, the only thing both parts needed to fix their issues was to find each other. And now, with the Heat enjoying its best season since 2014, Butler has proved why he's one of the best players in the league, while also showing how important the fit between team and player is to win games. Welcome to Courtside. Today, we'll take a look at how Jimmy's leadership has fueled his team and helped them turn into one of the best in the NBA. As the Heat got deeper into the playoffs, most of the NBA world was surprised by how much Butler helped his team win and how most of the predictions made on how his partnership with the Heat would work out were shattered. After all, at the time he decided to join them, he was looked at as a player that, despite being immensely talented, wasn't focused on winning and only cared about his own self, even if that meant hurting the locker room or bumping heads with coaches. Some even went as far as to say that he was leaving a winning situation in Philly to go partying in Miami. But even as wrong as those comments might sound now, the fact is that no one outside of South Florida expected things to work out so well for him and the Heat as it did. Though Butler's reputation as a hard worker certainly looked like a good match with the Heat culture, there were a lot of doubts regarding whether he could be the leader of that team, especially taking into consideration that his new team was going to rely on a lot of young players to fill big roles. So when the season started, most people thought the team's goal would be to develop its players and help Jimmy get used to their system while they waited for big-name free agents to become available. But as the games went by, the Heat started winning games, and Butler reminded the world he's an all-star and proved he was a great leader as well as he helped his young teammates flourish throughout the season. Now, when everything was said and done, Miami was the 5th seed in the East and was looking like a team that could easily reach the second round of the playoffs and maybe present more talented teams with a serious challenge. But again, Butler and his team weren't interested in what the people were saying about them. They were only focused on winning, and they showed it by sweeping the Pacers in the opening round of the playoffs. They followed that up by winning 3 straight games in a row against the favorite Milwaukee Bucks before closing the series out in 5. Then they took the Boston Celtics down in 6 games to become champions of the Eastern Conference for the first time since 2014. That was already an accomplishment in itself, as Butler had never made it out of the second round, and only Andre Iguodala and Udonis Haslem had previous finals experience in the Heat's roster. And considering they were about to face a much more talented and experienced Los Angeles Lakers team, it would have been understandable if the team felt comfortable with just having earned the chance to be there. But neither Butler nor his teammates nor anyone in the whole organization felt like that was enough for them. They knew things would be more difficult than ever before and that they would have to play almost perfectly to give themselves a chance to take a game away from the Lakers. But they were confident they could do it. So the series started, and the challenge that LeBron James and company represented for Miami seemed to be too big at first. For the first time in this year's playoffs, the Heat fell behind in the series and lost 2 games in a row. But with his team's back against the wall, Butler took a step forward and had a historic performance in game number 3, finishing with a 40-point, 11-rebound, 13-assist, triple-double to become the first player to put better numbers than James on all 3 categories during a finals game against him. Then he put another magical display on with a 35-point, 12-rebound, 11-assist, triple-double to help his team avoid elimination and extend the series. During his Game 3 performance, he became the 3rd player to post a 40-point triple-double in league history. Game 5, he had fewer points but made up for that by stealing the ball 5 times and out-hustling the Lakers on multiple occasions. Of course, the most important number for him is the wins total of his team, as the Heat came away with the victory both times. But still, what Butler has been doing as an individual is pretty incredible. He played all but 48 seconds of Game 5, and while his team needed him to be on the floor during all that time, by the end of the game he was clearly exhausted and even had some trouble walking off the podium during his post-game conference. In short, he's leaving everything he has on the floor without thinking about the next day. And so far, his effort has helped Miami win 2 games against the Lakers, something that no other team has been able to do in these playoffs. Still, perhaps the most incredible thing that Jimmy's been able to do in the finals is go toe-to-toe with James. After 5 games, LeBron is averaging 30.2 points, 11.4 rebounds, 8.2 assists, and 1.2 steals per game while shooting 57.3% from the field. For his part, Butler's averaged 29 points, 8.6 rebounds, 10.2 assists, and 2.6 steals per game on 55.5% shooting, and both players have repeatedly taken on the challenge of guarding each other. Now, the matchup between the 2 stars has been something impressive, and Jimmy is making his case as the best player LeBron has faced one-on-one during a championship series. That as well is outstanding given that James has been to 10 finals. Still, the competition at his position hasn't always been the best. During his many finals appearances, LeBron has repeatedly faced Kawhi Leonard and Kevin Durant. However, those players were not at their peak during the first few times James went up against them, and when he faced Durant again, KD had perhaps the best supporting cast in league history. But this time around, the talent gap isn't as big as it was when the Cavaliers were facing the Warriors, making way for the stellar matchup of Butler and James to become the main headline of this series. And while it's clear that what's really on the line is the championship trophy, it's fair to wonder what this run means for Butler as an individual. The narrative about him 1 year ago was that he was a locker room cancer, a bad teammate, someone who was hard to coach, and you wouldn't want to build a team around him. That started during his time in Chicago when rumors that talked about how he didn't get along with Derrick Rose and Fred Hoiberg surfaced time and time again. Eventually, the Bulls seemed to believe the rumors were right and decided to trade Jimmy away to go into a full rebuild. Now, when he was in Minnesota, everyone praised him as people believed him to be the missing piece to unlock the Timberwolves' potential as a playoff contender. And while he managed to guide the team to the playoffs in his first try, he soon realized that he didn't feel all that comfortable with the way things were going on. So, after just one season with the Wolves, he asked to be traded. But when the team said no, he voiced out the things that were wrong with the organization during the infamous practice sessions in which he led the third stringers to a victory over Andrew Wiggins and Karl Anthony Towns' squad. Eventually, he was traded to Philadelphia, and while he did his best to show he wasn't as bad as the rumors said, he quickly realized that the Sixers also had some problems of their own. So when he had the chance to leave as a free agent and the team didn't make an effort to bring him back, he knew the best was to leave the Sixers behind. Now, after his time with each of these teams reached its conclusion, Jimmy took the blame, and the narrative about him being a bad teammate only kept growing to the point where many wondered whether he could join a team without causing any problems. But as time has gone by, it turned out that he was right about all three teams. He didn't want to leave the Bulls as they were the team that drafted him, but the organization wasn't anything to get better, and they preferred to move away from Butler instead of listening to him. In Minnesota, things didn't work out as he hoped they would, and the infamous practice session was a result of the team not wanting to trade him away at the moment he made the request. In the case of Philadelphia, he and J.J. Redick have talked about how there was a lack of leadership in the organization during their time with the team, while also pointing out how Coach Brett Brown didn't make the best use of his players. In the end, neither the Bulls nor the Wolves have returned to the playoffs since trading Butler away and have been stuck near the bottom of the standings. On the other hand, the Sixers were recently swept in the first round of the playoffs, and the players that were expected to replace Butler either underperformed or weren't a good fit and are now looked at as some of the worst contracts in the league. Meanwhile, Jimmy has been playing at a LeBron-like level in the finals while also selling coffee in the bubble, developing a close relationship with Goran Dragic, Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo, Duncan Robinson, and the rest of the Heat's roster, and praising his coach whenever he has a chance. He's been a major factor in the development of Miami's young players who are now looking like future stars, and his teammates, as well as everyone in the organization, have said great things about him, his commitment to winning, and how great of a leader he is. In short, it's safe to say he's always been an elite player, but it wasn't until now that he found the right situation to flourish as that leader. And now he can finally be himself. Miami might be ready to start taking over the league once again. Overall, Jimmy Butler has proven to be one of the best players and leaders in the NBA. And while his way of doing things might not be that well received by everyone, people in Miami love him as he is and have given him the chance to be the best version of himself. Regardless of the results of these finals, he's proven he's a winner and that he's capable of turning the right team into a championship contender. So if things go right for the Heat, this might not be the last time we hear about them going deep into the playoffs. But now, what are your thoughts about Mr. Butler? You think he'll be able to lead the Heat to a title? Let us know in the comments. We hope you've enjoyed today's video. And if you did, remember to like it and subscribe to our channel for more NBA content. We are Courtside.